Hey everyone, it is late at night and I am Norman. Welcome to the third day in my 30 dress watches in 30 days challenge. Tonight we're looking at a piece that I've owned for a while now, the silver dialed Timex Marlin. This is a pretty affordable piece, and like I've said in all the videos that I've done on this watch, the really cool thing about it is it's exactly like getting your hands on a vintage watch that's actually brand new. It even has an acrylic crystal, it absolutely looks vintage, and it has the proportions of a vintage watch. As a watch nerd who owns quite a few vintage watches, I can vouch that this is a lot like those, only new. I'm not sure what these watches are like when it comes time to service them. My understanding is they actually have a modified movement in them that is an automatic movement, and the rotor has been removed on them. Last time I checked, these watches retail for around $100, and so the movement in them isn't great. If you track down my previous videos on this watch, in one of those, I mention a movement that people suspect might be in this. I don't recall offhand though. If I can find that video, I'll put it on the screen so you can see. But tonight we're going to take a close look at this watch. I'll give you a wrist shot of it. It's pretty cool. And I used to own the black dial variant, but I traded it. It was actually the very first watch that I put up for a watch trade challenge. Unfortunately, at that time, I didn't realize that they were discontinued and somewhat difficult to buy. I've seen a few come through on eBay, but yeah. I may at some point try and get another black dial version of this watch, just because it is great looking, but I have so many other vintage watches, and it probably would just sit in the watch box, so I probably ought to avoid it. But yeah, these are great little watches, so let's take a look at it. The Timex Marlin really takes me back. I think when I purchased this watch, I may have owned 2 or 3 vintage watches. So I was brand new in my foray into mid-century watches. I owned a couple Paliots, the black dial and the silver dial. And the silver dial Paliot looks absolutely amazing. The color of the silver on that watch is so cool. This is a bit of a brighter silver, and as you can see, it really catches light. It's actually kind of tough to get a good shot of that dial because the light is hitting it so much. And that's how it is in real life as well. It's constantly just reflecting light off of it. But you can see how fun that font is. There's numeric indices for all of the even hours and batten markers for the odd. The hands on these watches are cool. They're like sword hands that get wider near the end there before hitting the point. The crystal is properly tall. It's a super tall acrylic box crystal. The lugs are pretty utilitarian, but nice looking on this piece. The bezel plays with the light. It's very dressy, but these are pretty small, especially when I first purchased this. Now I actually own pieces that are even smaller, but this is 34 millimeters, and it is properly mid-century style. It looks great on this lizard strap. Yeah. And these are pretty affordable. I believe that this particular variant isn't discontinued. I think you can still buy them. The black dial is. But yeah, if you're curious about what you would think of vintage watches, but are kind of nervous about buying such old pieces, this would be a good option for you. Alright, so tonight I'm wearing the Antarctic. The longer I own this thing, the more I absolutely love it. Just look at that. It is also a contemporary piece that looks absolutely vintage. And it feels like you're wearing a vintage watch. Let me take this off and we'll see what the Timex Marlin looks like when you're wearing it. Here is the Timex Marlin on my 7-inch wrist. Yep, it totally looks vintage. Absolutely great. My wrist is 55 millimeters wide. For some context, just look at that crystal. And it looks so good on Lizard like that. It totally enhances the mid-century styling of it. I feel like this watch is every bit as cocktail as a Cocktail Time, although their dials are just super brilliant. But this one has the vintage size to it, and it's no date. Yeah. I am a fan of Timex Marlins. So there you have it, the little silver dial Timex Marlin. It's been in my collection for a while and it's probably gonna remain there. It doesn't get a ton of wrist time, but when I do wear it, it looks brilliant. Thanks for watching.